I've turned my music on. Hi, Presido. Yes, it's me. Oh, we seem to be seeing each other quite a lot in the last few days. Anyway, I can't believe it. It's episode 21 of Young and Strong. I can't believe it. So I'm not even going to try and explain it. I'm just really, and I tell you, really grateful to God that this is something that came to my heart one day, and I thought, can I really do this? For those who know me, I've always loved young people, and I thought, okay, apart from youth group, is there something else? And I remember when this thing came to me, and I thought, I don't know too much about Instagram, but hey, and I literally had to be taught how to use it. One of my young people actually taught me how to use Instagram, and this is me 21 episodes later. So I'm really grateful to God. I'm really grateful to all the young people that have joined me, the 20 young people that have joined me before today. And today I have my 21st episode. So it's been throughout the year, except when I took a break in August, because I thought, everybody should just go and chill over the summer, and then we'll come back again. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful. I mean, I said before today I was going to just give a shout out to all my past guests. So maybe at the end I'm going to do it, because this is going to be the last episode for the year. Because I thought, we haven't done too badly, but I think December, everybody should just go and have a great Christmas. I should catch my breath and find out what God will be having us do next year. For all I know, we might be mixing it up, we might be doing some things, but I'm grateful that I believe we're going to be ending on a great, yes, is the last one. Don't even try me. I know we're gonna end on a high, because today again I have a wonderful young person who I've known, was it when she's 12, 13? Young anyway, and I've seen her grow up into a wonderful young beautiful woman, and she's going to be talking to us today. Like I say, this is the young people's program. I just happen to be the one that asks the questions or gets nosy and find out how they're doing life and all that. And I tell you, I have learned so much, to the extent that I was asked to give a talk over the weekend, and a lot of the nuggets I was sharing, I told them, I said, whenever I had my programs, I tell the young people, whatever you tell me here, I'm going to go and use it somewhere else. And and I just discovered that a lot of things I was able to share with parents, people who had young people in their lives, mothers and grandmothers, the things I was able to share was the things I learned here. And I'm just so grateful to all these young people, and to the parents that join us, to my friends that come on, even my aunts, my sisters. I hope they all join us, later. Thank you, everyone. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to bring up my wonderful guest today. I've been looking forward to this. I like it when I tell them they should come and talk to me, and they come, Otherwise, I'm bringing up my guest now. I've gotten a little bit tech savvy now, so I know how to do it. If she doesn't show up, it's not my fault. Here you are. See? Tell me, finally. I've been chasing her for quite a while. Not a WhatsApp Aunty. Eh? Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I hope you're not tired today.
I'm not tired. I'm rested. I'm well rested.
You are very well. Aha. You have to be very well rested. You can see me. I mean, as soon as I finished work, I went to go and revive myself a bit, Anyway, everyone, this is my special guest, my 21st guest on Young and Strong. And like I said, I always kind of like get all the really great young people. So this is another great, awesome young person. So go.
Hi.
Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. Tell me, don't be hailing your sister too much, eh? Let me concentrate. Okay, go girl. Tell us about yourself.
Hi guys. My name is Tomi. I'm 22 years old. So I've just recently graduated. So I graduated from the University of Leicester with a 2-1. We thank God. So I'm interested in politics, social justice, Christ, basically people. Like people is my passion, I would say, I guess. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, people are your passion. So what did you study?
Politics and international relations.
Politics and international relations.
Mhm.
Wow. Are you already 22?
Yeah, it was my birthday last
Ah.
week.
How did they grow so fast? Are you serious? Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. I think your mom told me about your birthday. Okay,
Mhm.
happy birthday
Thank
in
you.
arrears. I'm sure you did something fun and all that. So tell me, I've known you since you were 12, 13.
hmm
Right. And now, can you believe it? You're 22. It
I
has
feel
been a
old.
journey,
I
hasn't
feel
it?
old.
If you feel old, what do you want me to say? I don't feel old though. I refuse. I refuse to feel old. Don't feel old, my dear. You're young and you're strong. So, I mean, get with the program. So, I mean, the first thing I'm going to ask you is what was uni like? Did you do 3 years, 4 years?
Uni
Three
was
years, 4
good. I had a good time at uni actually. I think
years.
for me, everything is very, I don't know how to explain it. Like even the way that I ended up at Leicester wasn't really, I didn't want to go, I should say. Like it wasn't my first choice. So it was a thing where it was like, okay, God, I know that you're leading me to this uni, even though I don't want to go, but I'm just gonna put it into your hands and hope for the best. And I think uni, as amazing as it was, I think I've learned so much about myself. And it's so funny because I feel like everyone used to say that to me, oh, when you go uni, like you're gonna learn about yourself, you're gonna realize different things about yourself. And I remember at the time hearing that, I was like, I feel like I know myself quite well. I didn't really know what you mean. But until I went there and actually experienced it for myself, I was like, yeah, I didn't know anything about myself before I went into uni at all. Because I think it's a thing where like you're surrounded by different people, you're in a completely new environment, you're literally by yourself. So it's like you in that moment you decide who you're going to be. So I think for me
Right.
that was very challenging at times, but I wouldn't change my experience for the world at all.
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So, what were the kind of things that, should I say, some of the things that were the culture shock? Was it things like leaving home and becoming independent and having to make your own choices?
I think for me, the independence at the beginning was like a shock. Because for me, it was like, as soon as my parents left, I was like, oh, this is, I'm actually by myself.
This
Like
is
I just
me.
looked at my room, I was like, oh, I can actually leave this place without asking anybody. I can go and walk down the road. I can go to a completely different area and nobody will ask me any questions. And I think for me, I was just like, okay, like I'm actually by myself. But
Yeah.
I would say that was a shock to me. I think also just being around different people. So I would say, especially like with the TNT group, like we're all, and I remember we spoke about this like last year, we're all very similar. Like we have a lot of like similar conversations, similar personalities. And it wasn't until I came to uni I realized, wow, there's actually so many different people. Like there are people that behave in completely different ways that I had no clue about. So I think even just adapting to different personalities, different ways of life, like that was a big shock to me.
Okay. I'm just going to say hi to a couple of people. Mama G, thank you for joining us. My sister has joined us all the way from Canada. Bob's hi. Blessings. Hello. I can see quite a number of people. Sorry if I don't mention your name. I think I saw Angela's mom. Hello. Everyone, this is Tomi Banwo. This is my 21st guest on Young and Strong. We've been doing it. I've been doing this since January. This is the last episode for the year. So you can all go have a great Christmas and I can go and recharge and get ready for next year. So I'm talking to Tomi, who just recently, can you imagine she's graduated though? And I've known her for ages. Temi Bodede, hello. And we're just talking about, first of all, I always like to find out how they did uni, you know, because I knew all these young people, as teenagers, and now they're all graduating, and I'm always intrigued by the experience. So tell me, going on from there, I mean, how did you balance, all the fact that, I mean, you've lived at home, you've had all the experiences, I know your parents have told you what to do, and then suddenly you're on your own and you're like, I've got to make my choices.
Mm.
How did you balance? How did you make your choices?
I think prayer, honestly speaking, like I don't think I could have done uni without God at all. And also like with the people that are around me, like like till this day, I think going to uni actually made not just friends but family, like people that I can generally confide in. So I think I realized, and I think especially through like first year, I realized that I can't do this thing by myself. I think a lot of times I was like faced with a lot of difficult decisions or things like, should I do this, should I do that? But it wasn't until like I actually spoke to my friends and they gave me like completely new perspective on different things that I was like, okay, yeah, I actually need people. I need people. So I would say prayer and friends are like the two things that really helped me to make decisions.
Okay. So were these friends that you had before you went to uni, or were these friends that you discovered when you got to Leicester?
I would say when I got to Leicester, it was funny because a lot of the people that I'm friends with were all somehow mutual, like we were all connected in a really weird way. Like a lot of them are like friends of friends, but it wasn't until like we got there and it was like actually able to make friends. So I'm gonna shout out Dotun for this. I don't know if she's still here, but like Dotun, for example, so she's Zoe's god sister. So we'd met each other before, but we didn't actually become friends until we went to uni. We were on the same course and things like that. So I think it's kind of a mix between people that I knew of and like people that I didn't know at all.
Okay. I mean, that's good. So, I mean, people say, hi, Michelle. Michelle is one of my previous guests. She's got I mean, her video is stored on I don't know what you people call it. What do you call it where you put all your videos on Instagram? She's there. What's it profile? Is there. Anyway, so I mean, uni, and what would you say, as a young lady, as a recent graduate, 20s, what are the kind of challenges, that you think your age group, your contemporaries face these days,
Um,
uni and after uni?
I would say the two main ones I can think of would probably be comparison and mental health. So if I
Whoa.
like go with comparison first of all, I feel like, and this has probably been spoken about many times, but my generation especially is growing up on Instagram, growing up on Snapchat. Like I've had a lot of social media since I was young. So it's like we've kind of been a new generation where it's like you're very much interconnected with everybody. And I think with that
Yeah.
has come a lot of challenges because it's like, okay, you're still trying to figure yourself out. But then somebody in America that you have no clue about, except the fact that that your age is doing X, Y, and Z, and you're thinking, okay, why am I not doing that? Or why am I not at that level? And I think growing up and like kind of trying to figure out yourself in that type of age is very, very difficult. And I would say the second thing is definitely mental health. So even just going to university and being around different people, and I think even just the experience I had in my secondary school, for example, I think I've been around a lot of people that have struggled with their mental health. And I think, especially growing up as like a Black African girl, it's very taboo, I would say, in our culture. Like a lot of the things, and I don't even think it's intentional, but I think because of the things that our parents have to go through, it's like you strive, you don't have time to think about your feelings, you just have to do it, make sure that it's done. But I think with my generation, it's very much more like, okay, wait, hold on, like I'm realizing that something is not okay. I can't carry on until I fix what it, like basically fix up. So I think those are the two main things I would mention.
Comparison and mental health. Wow. So because you're absolutely right, a lot of my guests, I'll say virtually all of them, except maybe a few, have talked about the pressure of social media, you know. And so why, I mean, if there's pressure, why do young people keep going back onto social media?
Because everybody's on it. Like obviously you have moments where you take breaks. I know it's like there's a lot of periods in time where it gets a bit much and you take a break. But I think
Yeah.
times have changed so much where it's like you kind of have to have social media. Like it's actually very strange if you don't, because more times that's the best way to keep up with people. Like I know we have text and things like that, but even for me, I would even say I have all my friends' numbers. like majority of the time I know what they're doing because of social media, because of like Snapchat, because of Instagram. So it's like culture's
Wow.
kind of shifted in that sense.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you want to know where your friend is, you go on Instagram or you go
Not like on Instagram, but like, no, like if I want to know what
where
someone's
you
doing,
are,
yeah.
DM me. You people are interesting, though. Just pick up a phone and call. I mean, the parents on here, I mean, well, we other generation, I don't like calling us old. Somebody once came and called me the elderly, and I said, I'm not the elderly. That, pick up a phone and just text them. You know, say, yeah, you want to know where I am? DM me. Anyway, it is cool. And you're right, there's a lot of comparison. So how does your generation then deal with the pressure? What do people do to deal with this kind of pressure?
I would say social media breaks are probably the main thing that I would say. Like, I think there's times where when you wake up, the first thing you're on is social media. Before you go to sleep, the last thing you're on is social media. So like kind of breaking up throughout your day, or even sometimes for me, taking like completely long breaks from it. So I think even last year I was off social media for like 4 months. Like I was off it for a long time.
How did you communicate with your friends? How? They couldn't DM you. So you came back to old school. You were calling and you
Yeah,
were texting.
I came back.
Tried and tested. Come on. Okay. I'm sorry. I had to say it. I had to say
But yeah, like I just took long breaks, and within that
Okay.
time, it wasn't a thing where it was like, okay, so I'm off social media, that's just it. Like in those times, I actually took time to seek God, to figure out what the problem was. Because I think more times when I come off social media, it's like I have to actually analyze, why do I feel overwhelmed? Why do I feel this type of way? And actually go back to the root of it. And I feel like when you do that, it kind of makes it easier to come back out. So even if you look in the Bible, there's been so many examples where people would withdraw. Like Jesus, for example, he would withdraw from the
Yes.
masses and then spend time with God, and then work through whatever you need to work through, and then come back into the mass again. So I think it kind of works with us. We have to do the same thing. Like we can't spend all our time around people, even if it's like physically or even on social media. You have to take time to be by yourself.
By yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Like Michelle said, yeah, that is so true. Um, and how do I'm going to come to the mental health because that's something that I think is important,
Mm-hmm.
and you're absolutely right. I'll come to that. But really, how do young people deal with the comparison? Because like you said, you get on social media and there's this person who's like your age, but who seems to be is it influencers you people call it? I don't know what influence they have, but it's like, they'll wear something and then yeah, that's what everybody's gonna wear, and they say something. I think that's what the influencers are, right? They're the ones that tell you what trends you're supposed to follow. I'm not exactly a social media illiterate, but but really, when all these comparisons happen, how do you think your peers or your contemporaries, or maybe in your experience, how do young people deal with it?
I would say a lot of young people don't deal with it, and I think that's kind of
I
the issue. I think people kind of just let it fester, and it turns into completely different things like jealousy, even to the point where a lot of these influencers get a lot of hate from people that watch them. Like I don't think people deal with it, and I think that's generally the issue. But I think in my case, I would say the way that I dealt with it was just learning who I am and being content
yeah
with who I am, and
yeah
not just learning the good things and affirmations and things like that, but also the bad things. And I think even in learning who I am in every single aspect has helped me become, I guess, more accepting of myself. And I think through
yeah
that, it becomes a lot easier to not compare myself to others, because I realize that I am made exactly how I need to be made. Like there's no, even though I have the bad side as well, there's no part of me that is incomplete, because I'm complete in Christ. So I think through that, it's kind of helps me navigate this whole comparison thing. But I do still feel it
comparison.
sometimes, definitely.
Of course, this bad self, we won't say that one here. I'll come and talk to you after, and it'll be a phone call. I'm not going to DM you. Okay, so it's about acceptance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of pressure on social media, and like you said, you've just got to know who you are, and accept who you are. Know that I can't be this person. you know. So the mental health, and I like, I mean, the other young people who are on here to just tell me what it looks like for young people, because we can band it. I could tell you the words, but what does it, how does it show?
Mm.
What does it look like when young people are going through those mental health issues? What does it look like?
I think like the important thing about mental health is that it's not monolithic, so it doesn't manifest itself the same way in every single person. So I think sometimes with depression you have the connotations of, okay, this is somebody that is always sad, is always like by themselves, things like that, but it doesn't actually always look like that. Sometimes it's spending like days on end in your room without doing anything. Sometimes it's not eating. Sometimes it's not even just feeling sad. It's actually like being numb. Like sometimes you actually don't feel anything at all. And even with anxiety, for example, like the fear of the future, the fear of what is to come, like it kind of looks different in different people, but more times it's that kind of isolation where it's feeling that you're not good enough, feeling that there's no point in living, feeling like there's no point in even just like kind of decreasing your self-worth almost.
Wow. And are young people willing to seek help when they're in this kind of place? Because yes, there's something I need to say, an issue for my generation, and I don't know if my other parents and aunties that are maybe older than your generation would agree. We just got on with life, you know, and you kind of like just suppress it, and you were taught resilience, and you just get on with it, and like, you know, and you push through because that was what you knew. But it's not the same now. So are young people willing to seek help when they're in this kind of state or in this kind of situation?
Yeah, I would say both yes and no. So I feel like one thing that I really like about my generation is that we're very big on therapy. And I think that's something that a lot of people have looked down on in the past. Like we
Yeah.
can see therapy and think, okay, it's only crazy person or like somebody that's gone through something completely traumatic that has to go to therapy. But I think one thing that I've learned about even as a Christian is that the two actually go hand in hand. As important as it is to seek Christ and to go to Christ and, you know, pray about it, it's also important to implement action. And God has placed people in our lives. He has placed professionals also that can help us and give us the help that maybe somebody our own age wouldn't be able to give us. So I think in that sense, I would definitely say that this generation is very much big on getting help, seeking help, like actually getting therapy, or even sometimes like even going to a hospital and getting diagnosis, because I know sometimes that's quite a taboo thing. Like, okay, why should I now go and get diagnosed with something? But sometimes you don't know what the problem is until you find out. Like sometimes you might think it's something and it's actually not that completely. So I think actually seeking people, obviously Christ is important, but also seeking the vessels that God has placed on earth as well.
So you think there's a lot more openness about mental health? I know it's featured a lot, especially in the past. Should we say we're coming on to 2 years when we've all been through the pandemic and the lockdown. There's been a lot of emphasis on mental health amongst young people, well, amongst everybody, but amongst the young people too. And I know that interestingly, I've had a lot of conversations where young people have talked a lot about mental health, you know, which is not something that, like you said, we used to think it was somebody that had gone off their rockers, but we've realized that it's not exactly like that. And people are young people. So it brings me to this question: are young people willing to talk to their parents about their issues? Not just mental health, but life.
Yeah. I would say if I start with like mental health, I would say yes and no. I think a lot of young people want to, but I think a lot of our like parents' generation are not educated on it. So it's almost like talking to a brick wall. You're trying to explain how you feel, and I'm not talking about my parents, by the way.
Mom.
Just say, because I know my mom's on this. I just want to make sure I'm not asking anybody.
It's okay. This is a safe space. We don't know. We all understand. This is open, honest conversation. It's okay. Even if they don't listen, well, here they will know that it would be nice to listen, but it's cool.
Yeah. I think,
it's
like,
okay.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, with your generation, it's like you just went on with it. So I think sometimes it's a bit taboo when it's like you, a young person speaking to you exactly about how they feel and they want help. And instead of actually giving them help, it's like, okay, you feel sad, get on with it. Okay, you feel anxious, pray about it and carry on with your day. And sometimes it's not that simple, because fear, anxiety, depression can be very crippling to the point that you won't even be able to do anything. So I would say in terms of that, I think there's a desire, but it's not always met. And I think in general, I would say young people I generally think a lot of people look at this generation as very prideful, but I think in terms of this generation, we want to learn. I feel like everybody I know love learning, like even if it's in terms of education or just general topics, they love to learn. But I feel like sometimes in terms of relationship with parents, they're not given the space to learn. It's almost like they've come to ask a question and they're being lectured, as opposed to actually there being dialogue on both ends. So I think, yeah, there's like a need to learn from each other almost.
They've been lectured. Okay. That's an ouch moment, but so what should we do when you want to talk to us about it? Is it that we shouldn't offer advice? Should we just listen and try to understand? Because that's quite deep. You guys don't want to be lectured. So what do you want from us?
I think it's a balance, and I think sometimes it's discerning in the moment what needs to be done. Like, sometimes when somebody's coming for help, they're not actually coming for help. It may seem like that, but sometimes they're just coming for a listening ear. Sometimes they're actually coming for help. And I think in that moment, it's discerning when somebody just wants to vent and speak, and discerning when they actually want to talk and listen also. So I think having that discernment within the conversations or listening to what they're saying, even though in your head you know exactly what you need to say, is actually asking yourself, do they need to hear that right now? Like, do they actually need to hear that in this moment? Or is this something that can be spoken about maybe another time when this conversation comes up? So I think it's discerning, like, it's not always having the final say. It's not always having to get your point into the conversation. Sometimes it's just listening and being attentive to what is said. Sorry, my English. To basically listen to what is being said.
Just listen. Sometimes it's not because of what you think you need to say. And I mean, it's the same thing, because I remember when I was having this with your brother, he made a very profound statement. So kudos to you, Tomi. I never forgot that statement. He said, one thing we need to do is listen to understand, don't listen to respond. And that I found very, very profound. And I think it's something that you are also saying, I mean, again today, that when you talk to us, sometimes it's not because you want our advice.
Yeah.
It's because you just want to talk to us.
And
as parents, we should be willing to just listen.
Yeah.
And go away. Or sometimes, like a friend of mine or colleague of mine said, sometimes we listen and then we can ask you, do you want me to say something, or do you want me to do you want me to respond and give you that situation? And then how important do you think your generation looks at the things we tell you? Because something they talk about is that there's a gap. Do you think there is a gap between our generation?
I think there is, but I don't think it's anyone's fault almost. I think generally just the fact that we have social media and your generation didn't, I think that's literally why there's such a gap. Like, our generation is one of the most interconnected generations there has been. And even the ones that are coming after us, with our generation, we had a bit of both. So like with Gen Z, millennials, we were kind of like half, like no social media, half social media. The generation after me are like fully social media. So I think even though there's a gap, it's not necessarily anybody's fault, but I would say that gap does need to be bridged. And that doesn't mean that all adults now have to come and jump on social media, but I think there just needs to be like an understanding. And again, I think the main thing that we're saying today is just listening. Like, everybody needs to listen to each other. Like, I think once we hear each other's needs, it's a lot easier to respond and actually think of practical things to do to bridge the gap, rather than one generation saying, oh, you're younger, what do you know? But I think more times when I've learned a lot of things, it's been from people my age. Like, I have a lot of people my age that are extremely wise. And I think a lot of people are doing a disservice by just cancelling people out by their age. Like, yeah.
Oh, I agree with you on that. And I do tend to champion young people, that you do get a lot of wisdom from you. But do you think that you young people should cut us some slack as well? Do you think yes, you have wisdom, but we have wisdom too.
Yeah.
And do you think you should cut us some slack and understand that by virtue of age and some things we have seen, we do have some measure of knowledge as well.
Yeah, definitely. I
And
agree.
you know, and sometimes you can see things that you might not be able to see. It's just a function of age and experience sometimes. Although I would agree with you that we can learn from your generation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So I'd ask if there was something because you've gone through your teenage years now. Um, and in retrospect, well, not in retrospect completely, but if there was something you could tell teenagers. Now, if I put you in front of a room full of teenagers, 13-year-olds to 19-year-olds, or maybe 18,
Mm.
what is one thing you would love to tell teenagers, people in that age grade, the secondary school, you
Mm.
know, young people? What is something that you would love them to know?
Mm. I would say, I would tell them that the things that they think are important at that current time are really not. Like, it's not important at all. And I mean, I know it sounds very, but I think going through my life, I've realized a lot of the things that I used to put emphasis on is like the way that I look, the way that I dress, like kind of trying to fit in with a crowd or fit in with whatever social group I was around at that time. And that is the least important thing. And I've learned that the hard way. Like, it's just so important to be yourself and to be authentic and just to be exactly who God has called you to be. I think as a young person, especially growing up in this type of generation, there's so much pressure to always look good, to always have the latest things, to always be on top. And even it's probably a lot harder for this generation going through secondary school now, where it's like there's even more pressure to, even have money. Like, even being 16, and I'll be seeing some of the things they're buying or wearing, and I'm thinking I could have never afforded that at your age. Like, a lot of things are kind of being, I guess, put on them. But I would say the things that you think are important are not important at all. Just learn how to be you and be comfortable in being yourself, not trying to fit in with some stigma that has been created for you, but being exactly who you need to be and who you are. I would definitely say that.
Do you know that is so interesting because every time I've asked this question, most of what your your peers have said has been the same thing.
Mm.
You need to find your identity during that period
Mm.
and find out who you are. Is this something that you look back and wish you'd done, or is something that you were able to do during your own teenage years?
Mm. I think a bit of both. And I would say that because I think my upbringing was a bit different to a lot of people in the sense that I live in a predominantly white area. So I think I've
Okay.
had more of the race aspect as well, which I kind of had to figure out. So like for me, I had a lot of culture shocks growing up. So I went to a predominantly white school. I was the only black person in my year group. So it was like, okay, trying to navigate that culture. And then I'll come to church on maybe Saturday, Sunday for rehearsals and for church. And then I was around a completely different culture. And I think
Yeah.
it got to the point where it was like, for the white kids, I was too black. For the black kids, I was too white. It was like, it's almost like I didn't fit into any space. And for a long time, that was something that I really struggled with because I had obviously my people at church, but I didn't have somebody that I felt like understood me completely and fully. And it wasn't until I realized that nobody's actually capable of doing that. Like, you have people that understand you on a high level, but no one will completely understand you the way that God understands you. And I think coming to that realization, I was just like, there's no point me trying to make myself more palatable to different people. Like, I should just be
Yeah.
me. And whoever needs to be in my life will come to my life. Whoever God has ordained to be in my life will come to my life. And I think that's so much more important than having people that you almost have to change yourself to be liked by. So yeah, I would definitely say that.
That's a brilliant that's an amazing experience because even I, like you said, I mean, I was with you practically every week for a couple of years,
Mm.
and I wouldn't have picked that up because I guess what would be happening is when you're with this, you try to be like them, and when you're there, and that must have been very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult.
Mm.
And I'm glad that, by the grace of God, you found that, this is me.
Mm.
I got that from The Greatest Showman. I think there's a song. There's a song called "This Is Me."
Yeah, I know
That
the song you're talking about as well.
that's what the things that come to my head sometimes. You know. Hello, Mokwe. Thanks for joining us. Buki, thanks for joining us. I mean, quite a number of people have come, and I think that's good. What you've just said for teenagers, discover who you are.
Mm,
You know, find your identity. It's never too early, and I think it's something that maybe as parents we should also be on the lookout for
mm,
and just try and validate our young people and say you're okay just the way, especially when we see that they're kind of like changing, and I call it cloning, when they want to be
mm,
like everybody wants to be like everybody else,
mm,
and all that. Now I would say us parents, the older ones in your lives, or the aunties, the uncles, the counselors, and if you could tell us all something, no holds barred now. And don't worry, I'm not going to cut you off. And I'm not going to edit this video. If there was something you could tell us that you think you would love us to give to your generation, what is something or a couple of things that you think would we could benefit your generation with
mm.
as parents, as adults in young people's lives?
I think to share your experience, like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be something, and I don't know, this obviously differs with different people. I know some people are a lot more open than others, but I think one thing that I love hearing is stories, and I think anybody would love hearing stories, but I think sometimes, like, I guess maybe it's shame or something like that, a lot of people are less open to actually sharing the things that they've been through. And I think sometimes, like, even with parents, you might be going through something in that current time, and little do you know your parents went through that 30 years ago. But because there's been no communication or dialogue about maybe the things that they've been through, it's almost
Yeah.
like your child has to suffer by themselves, going through what they need to go, what they're going through, when they could have been getting help from somebody that's been through it. So I would definitely say being more open to sharing personal experiences. It doesn't have to be a thing where it's like, until I'm asked, I'm not going to share it. But just being more open with the things that you've been through, telling stories, the things that maybe your parents did and you wish that they didn't do, just being more transparent. I would definitely say that, because I would say there's power in being transparent. Like, there's power in being open. Nobody can shame you for the things that you said. It's your experience, it's your life. So yeah, I would definitely say that.
So do you think that then it's you're asking of Michelle says, but they could share and we could break the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But I think sometimes, and I wonder if any parents will chime in on this. You're asking us to be vulnerable with you young people.
Yeah,
Are we able to trust you guys with our vulnerability?
I would say yeah. I think either way, and one thing I've learned is that nobody can ever shame me for the things I've been through, because I've been through it for a reason. Like, I've overcome it for a reason. I think it's, again, that comes with discernment. If there's some things in your past that you know you haven't completely healed from, obviously maybe heal from it first before you start sharing it with people. But I would say that, like, the things that you've been through, the things that you've overcome, those aren't like shame. They're not shameful. They're actually stories of power. So I would say, and there's even power in the tongue. There's power in testimony. We all know this. I think being more open to sharing testimonies, being more open to just sharing the things that you've been through, life experiences, things that you've learned, things that you wish you didn't go through, things that you did that were bad, things that you did that were good. I think there is so much power in sharing testimony, both good and bad.
Wow, wow. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Oluwaseyi. That's a young man I know who's doing great things with young men, young married men. Hi, Shay. Nice to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. So you're saying that as parents and as older ones, we should put our stories out there to the young people.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think they'll find it relevant? Because sometimes they're like, oh, that was during your own generation. It won't happen now.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's always relevant. I think one thing I've realized growing up is history repeats itself. Like, things that are happening now and things that happened before are the same things that are happening, just with different devices. Like, literally the same things, same methods, just different ways of going about it. So I think definitely, like, everything is always relevant. I don't think there's anything that's ever irrelevant. All experiences are relevant. whether you liked to go through it or you didn't like to go through it, it all makes up who you are now. So yeah, I would definitely say, yeah.
Okay. And us sharing this, will that relieve some of the pressure that young people have to kind of I don't know, I remember I was talking to somebody that said sometimes um let me just read what Mama G says. She says, I agree with Tommy because being vulnerable in front of them helps them to know we are not perfect. Okay, so so you think it is important for us to show our children, our young adults, that we're not perfect? Do children automatically put their kids on a pedestal? Do
You
they
cut out a
automatically
little
put their
bit.
parents on a pedestal?
Oh, you have to say that again. I think it froze a bit when you were
It
speaking.
froze a bit. No, I was just saying that, going reading what Mama Gigi said, that we should be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that, do you think by doing that it takes some pressure off young people and off children because they automatically kind of put us on a kind of pedestal?
Yeah, definitely. And I think even likewise, I would say it takes a lot of pressure off parents because there's not this need to uphold this image of being perfect. Nobody's perfect, whether we like it or not. And I think with parents being a lot more vulnerable, it kind of will, again, we're talking about bridging the gap before, it will bridge that gap because you'll realize that, okay, my mum or my dad went through the exact same thing that I'm going through now. They're like, sorry, my internet. They're not like some weird person that has done everything kind of perfect and they're actually like me, they're human like me. They've been through things that I've had to go through as well. So I would definitely say that.
They are human. We're very human. Okay. All right. We are very human. We have stories. My sisters, Joy Lydie, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone that's joining us. This is my very wonderful young adult, Tomi Banwo, and we've been having a brilliant conversation. And I hope people are learning, people are understanding. I mean, how our young people think. I think you people are great anyway. And it is true. It does take a bit of pressure when you realize that your parents are not perfect. And like somebody said, then there is no fear that you will disappoint them.
Mm.
Because maybe that's why sometimes young people don't talk to their parents because, you don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah.
And so when you're going through something, you don't tell them because you're like, what will they think?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. All right. Like my sister said, indeed, we're all human. There's nothing new under the sun. Is true. There's nothing new under the sun. It might just take a different, like you said, it might be a different way it's coming, it's happening. So you've told us what you would tell teenagers. You've told us what you would tell parents, us. What would you tell your contemporaries, your peers? What is something you would tell your peers?
I would tell them to not let fear stop them, like to actually do what they want to do. I feel like even for me, a lot of my friends are extremely creative. They have like businesses, they have ventures that they want to do. And I think more times, like the only thing that stops them is themselves or the fear of what other people will say, or even the fear of failure. I think all of it is basically surrounding fear. And I would literally just tell them to don't let fear stop you. Like I remember I think it's like 2016, like me, Bookie, and a few others, like we went to a conference called Fear is a Lie. And I think for me, even though fear is something I still kind of struggle with now, like that definitely broke a lot of things off me because especially when I was younger, I was very anxious. I was very like scared. Like I was very scared of what people were going to say, of not being perfect, of not being like a good Christian. But I think like realizing that fear has no hold on you, or realizing that fear it will only have hold on you if you allow it to, is the only thing that can stop you. And I think at the end of fear is so many great possible, like impossible opportunities, and I think you won't realize how much you're capable of doing if you don't cross that line. So I would definitely say that.
So when you talk about them not letting fear stop you, do you think your age and where your contemporaries are now will be a time when they should? Okay, Bookie remembers. Hi, girl. How you doing? What was it called again? Don't let fear stop.
Encounter, Hillsong Encounter. But the conference
Oh,
was
the
called.
Hillsong thing. Oh, yeah. All right, I didn't go. So are you going to say that during this period that you guys are on, do you think not letting fear stop you means it's also a good time to try different things?
Definitely. I think a lot of people hold back from doing things that they want to do, even if it's random, like just because of what people might say. Or even when they go there, it's like they're very, or like I'm scared people are going to be looking at me. Like, even a good example, very random, is like the gym, for example. A lot of people are very scared of going to the gym because they don't know, they feel like they don't know anything. When they get there, they're going to be there and people are going to be looking at them thinking, oh, why are you doing it like this? But when you start going, you'll realize that nobody's actually looking at what you're doing. They're focusing on themselves. And I think when you're focused on you and you're focused on what you want to do, like, people's opinions become very secondary, very, very secondary.
Okay. I mean that's good to know because sometimes, I mean, this is something I do tell young people. I say, look, and maybe that's something you would agree with. I tell them sometimes you can try, you've got time,
Mm-hmm.
that you have time. I know everyone can say, oh, time's right now, time waits for no one. But I think that young people should realize that you have time
Mm.
to try new things. If it doesn't work, I mean, like somebody said, gone are the days where, like us, once you leave university, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and then you wait for your pension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think life has moved from there. If it doesn't work in these days, go do something different. And I think it's something that maybe your generation should embrace.
Yeah.
Try new things, very random, like you said. If you want to learn how to bake, learn to bake. And if you don't like it, leave the kitchen and go and learn something else, you know.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Um,
add, sorry, just to add, like, I think that literally
yeah,
just comes with the fear of failure. Like, people like to be good at things, so it's almost like this fear that if you do something new and you fail, that's embarrassing. Like, oh no, like I must be terrible. But no, maybe that's just not for you, and that's okay as well. Like, trying new things to discover that it's not for you. At least you know it's not for you now, rather than living in regret for the rest of your life, thinking, oh, what if?
yeah, yeah. No, no, that's a very good point. And I would encourage the young people who are listening to us, go try, go try. You want to bungee jump, go bungee jump. You want to skydive, go skydive. I won't do it because,
Mm.
you know, maybe it won't be for me. But it is true. It is an opportunity to try different things
Mm.
and to realize that you do have time. Use the time. Now, one thing that you've alluded to quite a lot in the course of our conversation is your faith
Mm.
as a believer, as a Christian. And I would want to reiterate that. How much does your faith play in your life? Just keeping it that way.
I would say it plays a very big part. If I'm being honest, like, I'm probably not where I should be in terms of my faith at the moment. But I think even just growing closer to Christ in university, I would say that's generally been an anchor for me. Like, I've been through a lot of things in life in general, but even whilst I was at uni, that some people know about, some people don't know about. And I generally don't think I would be able to get through that time if it wasn't because of God. Like, even in terms of my mental health, in terms of my studies, in terms of friendship, things like that. Like, I've been through a lot of different situations, and if it wasn't for God, I don't think I would be as strong as I am now, because I would have let them basically overcome me essentially. So I would say that even in the midst of the situation that I am now, in terms of like not being as strong in my faith as I know that I should be, I think the one thing that helps me carry on is knowing that God is patient. And the fact that God is so patient with me, it's okay to be patient with myself also. Like, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be, always going up. There's always leaps and ups and downs when it comes to this walk as well. So I think being patient with myself in the midst of the low moments as well as in the midst of the high moments, that would definitely say that my faith is probably the most important thing in my life.
Great. That's a great answer. One that I'll follow with. I just want to say hi to my brother Tunde. Hi. Where do you think anybody should be in their Christian faith? Is there like a scale? Because he said, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Because if you're not where you don't want to know where I am.
Mm.
But so do you think there's some pressure that we put on ourselves that, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be because I'm supposed to have been doing this and doing that and doing that, and that is the proof that
Mm.
I'm doing well as a Christian?
Yeah,
Does that really exist?
it's true. It doesn't. It actually doesn't exist. Like, and that's okay as well. It's actually
Yeah.
okay. And I think, to be fair, it goes along with the social media thing, because I think sometimes when we look at influencers, we just think, okay, there's people that dress nicely, there's people that have money. We also have like Christian influencers as well. And I think when you see young people your age that are constantly on fire for God, and you're thinking, oh, I should be there too. Like, I know I should be reading my Bible, but I'm doing X, Y, and Z. But I think one thing that I've really learned, I just wanted to reiterate as well, is that God is very patient. He is very, very patient. And I think sometimes we expect ourselves to be on a certain level because of what we see around us. But even in the midst of that, God is so patient and he's so kind. And sometimes he will propel you. Sometimes it will just be a long journey. But even in the midst of the long journey and in the propelling, like, God is as patient in both of those. So I think it's also allowing yourself to be patient with yourself, that, okay, maybe I'm not doing everything that I should be doing right now. Maybe I'm not reading my Bible like I should be. But God is patient with me. And I'm allowed to be patient with myself and know that, okay, with time, with consistency, I will be exactly where I feel like I need to be.
Yes, because and this is something that maybe I just want to spend a little bit of time on. Where do we get, like you said, and you're absolutely right. And I think even from the beginning when we were talking about one thing we've all realized more often than not on social media is everybody puts their best face forward.
Yeah.
Nobody comes on social media and says, "Yeah, I did read my Bible. I'm a failing Christian." Nobody comes on social media and says that. Everybody comes and you do prayer and you do a sermon and you do a motivational talk and you do all that, putting our best face forward. And then behind the scenes, you go and, do whatever you need to do to try and get yourself fired up. And I always believe that what I always say, you don't need to impress God. He doesn't need you to impress him. You pray 5 hours a day doesn't impress him. It just means you get more communication and you don't get brownie points for it. The important thing is relationship. And even the relationship you and I have, or the relationship you have with your parents, has its ups and its downs. Has the time when you guys are just generally gelling, and has the time when you guys just don't. It is true. And it happens with God as well. And it doesn't faze him. It doesn't faze him. He's like, oh yeah, okay, you're throwing a tantrum, you'll be back. That's why he calls us his children. How many times do you hear him say, yes, you're my man? He always says you're my child because he knows that, the ups and downs. And I'm so grateful. So, I mean, as we're coming to the end of this, what is one thing that you would like to just generally talk about? Something you would just like to share from your heart? If you had an opportunity to say, okay, Auntie T, I'm just going to say this. I've always wanted to say this.
I don't know. I feel like I'm being put on the spot. I don't know.
I have to put you on the spot so that, me, I'll look good. Okay, share something as we're going to the end of the year, or as you've looked back on your experiences. I mean, you've told us something for parents, you've told us something for teenagers, you've told us something for your contemporaries, your peers. Generally, what would be, if you were like told, give one thing you would want to say about life? It could be anything.
I would say, live in the now. Like, I think with me especially, I'm very like future focused. Like, okay, in 5 years time, I know where I'm going to be in 10 years time. I don't know, maybe the next couple months, I know where I would like to be. But sometimes by doing that, we neglect where we are now, and actually being grateful for the now. That, okay, looking back, I've seen that I've been through this, that God has brought me through this, that I've been through this situation and that situation, and actually just finding joy in your now, finding joy in the moments right now. And even as like we're approaching the end of the year, you'll start seeing the post about 2022 best year ever, I'm gonna do this, let's do. And yeah, that's important, it's good, start focusing on next year, but be grateful for now, that you've made it exactly where you are now. This moment now is as important as the moment next week and the week after. Sometimes when we focus on tomorrow, we just forget how important today is. And it might get to a point where you look back and you're like, wow, I should have just focused on now. Like, I should have just focused on my moments as I was living it, rather than being so far-fetched or living in the past or living in the future. Just live like in the now, basically, I'd say.
I thought you said you didn't know what to say. That's amazing. Live in the now. Look, my brother says words. My friend says, I mean, wow. Live in the now. And it's true. Find joy in the now. Really good. I mean, that's really, really encouraging, because, and I think that's one thing that the pandemic taught us.
Mm.
The importance of um living in the moment, enjoying the moment, being grateful for that moment,
Mm.
you know. My sister says, love that. I mean, your Aunty Mope is amazing. I mean, true word, true word. And it's just like what we're doing now. We're living in the now. We're grateful for the now. And I am so, so grateful for you, Tomi. I have a smile on my face because I've seen you grow up, you know, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've become. I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm proud of your relationship with God. Whichever part of your skill you're on, you're still a Christian. That's all I mean. What I'm interested in. I don't have a skill, you know, and my desire is that you be all that God wants you to be and to do all that God wants you to do.
Mm.
And as long as you're connected to Him, you're on the right track.
Mm.
And as long as you're on the right track, whether you're high speed or you're taking it one slipper at a time, as long as you're on the right track, you're on the right track. That's the important thing, you know. And I'm just so grateful to you and so, so proud. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. I know Mom's on there somewhere. She just hides in the background somewhere. Thank you so much for the amazing job. Tomi, shout out to you. And you're doing good. You're doing good, Tomi. You're doing good. Well done. At this moment, like I said, this is the last episode for the year. Yes, I'm not doing anymore. It's been amazing. Tomi has been my 21st guest. And I said, oh, sorry, Tomi, I'm just going to bear with me because I can't be talking to myself. I have to talk to somebody. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the people, all the young people that have been with me this year. I've had Abby, I've had Tony, I've had Ira, Ora, Shanova, Dami, Emanuela, Ife, Ryan, Tami, Dimimo, Michelle, Mayowa, Joanna, Galibe, Mia, Destiny, Victoria, Bukumi, Fejiro, and Tomi, number 21. Thank you, wonderful young adults. This has been amazing. It's been a great year. I have grown. I have learned. I have been so, so, so glad of what God has taught me to my young people. Tomi, one thing I tell my young people, or one thing I tell people, and I still said it on Saturday when I was giving a talk. I said, when people ask me who are my heroes, I always tell them, young people are my heroes. You guys are my heroes. Because when I see you grow and blossom, I'm so, so, so grateful. And I look forward to the great things you're all going to be doing in lives to come. And you're going to be able to say, and I know Auntie T, so, you know, I too have been sharing your limelight. And to all the wonderful parents who are doing amazing jobs, to the wonderful brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, kudos to every single one of you for being part of these young people's lives. I salute all parents. Well done, well done, well done. Hopefully next year we'll continue with Mom's Word. I know we took a long break on that, and also we'll get back to Young and Strong. So I'm going to wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Have a wonderful rest of 2021. The videos are there for those who want to go back and look. From all these amazing 21 young people. I learned how to save it very early. So please go watch, listen. The nuggets are amazing. And I'm not saying that because Auntie T loves all these young people. They are truly, truly wise, young, like you heard Tomi today. I mean, I don't have anything to say, but I'll just tell you, live for the now. I mean, that's how they drop those things. And we've learned a lot. So I'm not going to keep everybody anymore. Have a wonderful Christmas, everyone. God bless you. Tomi, I love you from the depths of my heart. And I'm really, really proud of you. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of 2021. God bless us. Goodbye. Bye. Bye-bye.